we need these changes to the ordinance prior to the more comprehensive study as we redo Lake Drive?
Yeah, I mean, these are pretty to the T, and for a police perspective, I think it's gonna be able to help the police department enforce parking based on the parameters that you agreed upon during your April meeting.
Okay. Trustee Messina.
Isn't this part of the, because we're resurfacing and restriping?
Correct.
And our restriping, we have different traffic circulation than we used to. So instead of no parking only 50 feet north of Capitol, it's now longer. So we had a traffic study, we discussed all this.
Yep.
We made a decision about narrowing Lake Drive, and this is just implementing the changes for the signage and the striping in conformance with what we decided
In April.
early in April.
Correct.
So
We just wanted to wait until that restriping would occur, which is September 17th, so that's why we're doing it now.
we definitely need to do it because
Yes.
this is going to happen later this month, and the striping and the signage need to be consistent with the action we already took in regards to Lake Drive.
That's correct.
Thank you for the explanation, Trustee Menta. Okay, any further discussion on this item? Do we have a motion on the floor? And a second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry,
It's gotta be roll
I'm sorry,
call,
it's a
sorry.
roll call vote. Apologize. So, clerk, will you call the?
Trustee Linda.
Aye.
Trustee Bachhorst. Indeed. Trustee Macker.
Aye.
Trustee McKay.
Aye.
Trustee Warren.
Aye.
Trustee Constance.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you so much. Our next agenda item is to evaluate the board processes and committee structure. I do want to say it's 9:15. I just want to give a heads up to the board. And I want to remind you, anyone can make a motion to adjourn at any time. Is it the will of the board to continue on with this item?
I think we should.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will, again, consider evaluating the board processes and committee structure. In your packet, there is just a summary of, Trustee
Can I
McKay,
make a
yes.
motion that we take item G first, just because that might be a little bit more direct?
Okay, we have a motion to move item D up in our agenda today. Do we have a second?
G.
Second.
G, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So now we will consider the deferral date for St. Robert's hearing. Rebecca.
Just wanted to let you know that today I sent out some dates that were suggested by St. Roberts. I know that Trustee Carpenter is absent tonight, however, to assist us this evening, she responded that she is available for 2 of those dates. Wednesday, September 26th, and Wednesday, October 3rd. Trustee Maher also responded that he is available on those dates as well. So for purposes of your discussion and maybe narrowing down availability, wanted to suggest beginning with those 2.
You'll be able to post.
Those two too.
I am too.
I think I am.
Oh, you know what, no, sorry.
Okay, here it is, sorry. Can you give me those 2 dates one more time?
Sure. They're both Wednesdays. The first is Wednesday, September 26th, and the second is Wednesday, October 3rd.
I'm good with both.
I'm sorry, Nate, I forgot to ask.
My apologies. Ask the attorney who needs to represent.
Probably
Why not?
the government that everybody just went, yeah. The only thing I was just gonna point out for timing purposes is, that Wednesday the 3rd also happens to be otherwise a municipal court night, but, I can check with the court clerk, and, if there's no trials that night, really it's not that big a deal, depending on the time. We start at 5, we should be done. If there's no trials, it'll be done by 7.
But the 26th works,
Right,
so
dates are available.
I would propose that unless there's any conflicts.
Does the 26th work for you?
It does,
Attorney
absolutely.
Mayor?
That's, no problem at all.
The only thing I would request is, I did request, I think, am I chairing that meeting at that hearing? Or is it, can someone just explain how that process goes for a second? Like it,
Yeah, there's a memorandum that I circulated that has a proposed structure,
okay,
kind of an amendment. I contact.
I did, I just can't remember it right now.
And it has kind of almost like a script of things to read into the record, and then now you ask open the floor for questions on these subtopics.
Okay,
They respond.
so
They're
is
very
that a yes?
specific.
Is that a yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
all right, so then I would just request that you and I meet before that hearing to just go over line of questioning, because I'm not familiar with that as much as I should be.
And there's a separate, there's another memo that goes with that has a bullet pointed
Okay.
what all items that would be relevant to the question of use. And so I'll walk you through kind of how to turn some questions.
And just so the board understands of it, does everyone ask questions?
Have the opportunity.
Everybody has that, okay. Thank you for that.
Did we
Trustee Maher.
What
Did we
time?
get this memo?
There was an email.
I would be happy to redistribute it with my Friday update.
Please.
Okay. What
Okay,
time,
good.
what time on the 26th?
We had previously discussed 6 o'clock,
I'm okay with that.
confirming 6 o'clock as well.
I don't have my work schedule with me, but it sounds like we have a quorum, so go ahead and schedule it.
To 6 o'clock with the regular
So 6 o'clock on the 26th.
Mhm. And Rebecca, you can confirm that in your update, correct, on Friday, so we all have it in writing. Okay,
Yes.
great.
And I will actually send out, because I apologize for, Trustee McKay also requested just an update of meetings that I had on the calendar for the rest of the year. It's always, I've just put the first month within my updates, but you know what? I might as well just include the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Because we're winding down.
Yeah.
Really?
Or,
Okay.
I
okay,
appreciate
so
that.
I'll
Thank
do
you so
that.
much.
Okay, and then we'll redistribute the items for that public hearing as well.
Okay.
If there is a motion tonight
What do you make a motion?
for the St. Roberts, yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
I would make a motion to defer the hearing for St. Robert's until September 26th,
So,
6 p.m.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next, are we okay with going back? Does anyone want to change anything else? And, okay.
Thank you for
No problem. So the next, we'll go back to order of the original agenda, and we will evaluate the board processes and committee structure. In your packet is just a memo that outlined where we are, how we got here today. Trustee Bachhorst had asked at a board meeting for us to review that structure and to see if everyone is comfortable with continuing on, or if we would like to make a change to the committee meetings and the committee structure. We can always come back and review it at a later date as well, no matter which we choose as a board. But I did want to just point out there's one additional option from the original memo. Trustee McKay had sent her thoughts at some point. They were excellent. So I put them in as option D, I believe, which is simply that, which we have not discussed before, but it would be 3 of the standing committees, the original standing committees meeting at right before one of the village board meetings for that month, and 3 meeting at before the other village board meeting for that month. And the only downside to that that was noted is that the timing might be off because we're not going to act on the item immediately following after board meeting. So I just want to point that out. And it's open for discussion. Trustee Warren?
Oh, no, I was just
Oh,
checking that.
okay. Trustee Maher?
I mean, we're just going into the budget process, we're gonna be pretty consumed with that. I would be interested in just letting this go for a little longer and see how it works out. I think also, if at some point, I mean, the budget process in the past was called the finance committee, but it was really a committee of the whole. So I think in the future, at least the official going through the budget, it should be the committee of the whole. But at this point, I give it till we get a budget and then revisit where we're at.
Just in the memo, there is that suggestion as well. If we probably maybe should just talk about whether we think it's working and if there's any concerns and how we can adjust. But the suggestion that I had made was that if we made any changes, they wouldn't go into effect until after the budget was adopted. just because I agree. And I did want to mention one other thing, that this year, I'm gonna be consistent with past policy, and the finance chair will chair the committee of the whole for the budget meetings, which is trustee Menta. So does anyone have any concerns over the current structure? And if so, I think this is a good time to just say it. Trustee Brockhurst.
One of the concerns I have with the current structure is that it doesn't allow for free and loose discourse amongst our body here as well as the public, because everything goes through you, and then often you also give your opinion to it. So it's not what I would call a dialogue. I would say it's more of a formal top-down scenario, which to me eliminates the opportunity for a much broader discussion, and also makes our decision-making process, I think, less publicly inclusive. So that's why, going back to the original committee, I agree, maybe waiting until after the budget cycle makes a lot of sense. But as I was sidebarring to trustee Warren when you interrupted me before, was that discussions such as the collections and that the Conservation Committee had brought up are things that would have typically gone through the board committees, and then we would have a robust and have an opportunity to discuss that, or even such as making, decisions like marking certain parts of the street, which you mentioned tonight. Those things would have gone through probably, a much more vetted kind of, and also inclusive or participatory, that's the word I'm looking for, I'm tired, but kind of process. And I think we've gone a lot away from that and gone, again, back to kind of a more top-down model here. And as far as participatory government and just our board structure, and given that we do have a lot of division and not a lot of consensus, and I think things would benefit a lot, to the public would benefit a lot by having us have a lot more opportunities to speak. And at this current cow situation, or I hate when we say that when there are other people around the committee as a whole, we don't really have that opportunity like we used to. So I would, again, support returning to a committee structure, but also support waiting until after budget cycle.
Thank you. Attorney Mayor, does the president have a right as a trustee to ask questions during the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? Trustee Menta.
I agree that there's a certain looseness of conversation and back and forth that we used to have in committees that we have lost from not having committees anymore. And that that wasn't always beneficial. Sometimes it was not the greatest, but we were able to sit and just talk about ideas and concepts. As opposed to meetings, which are more like, here's this RFP, here's this decision, here's this resolution. So I think we've lost the ability to have more general discussions, which, given that we're a very different board than we were last year. So I think, that would be really valuable to have. I also think we just don't, I think we talked about more things and we've got more things. I don't know that I do. I think we got more things done when we had committees, and I think we were talking about a wider range of things. Now I feel like we have the business at hand. We just need to get through it, and we never get through our agendas, and it's frustrating. I think everybody's frustrated. When we have now, I don't necessarily, and I know there's issues with the scheduling of committees and having them meeting at the same time, and there's options for doing that, like Whitefish Bay. Public Works has, a big chunk of things every month. I mean, we could do, Whitefish Bay has a separate Public Works Committee meeting, and all that Public Works stuff gets worked out there, and then when you come to the board, you just approve it. So, I mean, I think that would be a different meeting if we did it on a different night, but, I think we can look at other models, and I do feel like we need more opportunity to just have more free discussions about issues.
Trustee Brockhurst.
I'd like to also add that, and thank you, that we have 2 new board members, so they haven't seen or even had the opportunity to really participate. And then coming on, I remember as being a new board member, just going straight to the board in front of everyone, you're less likely to be as free and ask as many questions, nor do you have as many opportunities to ask questions of your other trustees and of staff and others. So I think since we do have a large changeover, not only with trustees, but also with staff. I mean, almost all of our upper level staff, well, yeah, is new. And so, so to have less of an opportunity for all of us to have a legal discussion, you know, at this level, I think is a disservice to all involved.
Can I just ask you a question? Does anyone feel they can't ask questions of staff because of the setting? Or is it just the time restraint, like that we don't have enough time? And that's the truth, I'm really interested. Is it the setting that, and the only reason I ask that is, there are positives to having all of us in one room, that I think everyone has acknowledged. It's, if you do have new members, you hear everything and have the opportunity to learn from the others. And then there's negatives, and the negatives are